Good afternoon. My name is Joshua Bierman, and I'm doing a presentation on the documentation required for your check ride. This is for Aviation 327, and this is the documentation that you're required to have for your commercial check ride. Usually, if you have a good designee, he's pretty good about letting you know what you need to have brought prior to your oral exam with him. But you should always be prepared. Do some research and check and see. A big thing is, prior to, make sure you have all your endorsements and your AVIA application properly filled out and endorsed by your flight instructor. This is the 8710, and you also need your Part 141 graduation certificate. So these are some examples. Not everyone's graduation certificate is going to look the same. Mine was pretty plain. Hopefully some people get a really nice one with some good pictures so they can actually hang it in their house and look nice. AVIA application is standard across the board. Everyone's going to have the same, and that needs to be filled out in its entirety and be ready to go so the designee sees it before he comes. And then the next thing that the designee is going to want to see before your check ride, he's going to want all your federal identification, driver's license, and or a passport will work. Those qualify as your federal ID. They're going to need to see your current private or your pilot's license. That way, not only do you need that to fly for that day, but you're going to hand that to him at the end of the check ride when you pass, and he's going to punch a hole in it. And you get to put that in a little special place to keep, and then he's going to give you a temporary one. You're also going to need your medical. What's going to be required is your third class. However, a lot of 141 schools want to see you get your second class just to know that you can get a second class medical. You only need a third class to actually fly and do your practical test, but a second class sometimes is beneficial so you know, hey, I can qualify in a second class, then I can be an actual commercial pilot, because that will be what's required for you to fly for hire. You're also going to need your logbook. Your logbook is going to have certain entries put in the back, signed and endorsed by your instructor. You're going to need your knowledge test, your flight proficiency, proof of citizenship, your TSA one, and possibly an endorsement for commercial aircraft if you're flying a RG or something like that. He's also going to look at all the hours that you've completed, kind of verify that against your AVIA application. Plus, he's going to look at see if you've completed certain flights, because Part 141 you're not required a certain amount of hours. However, there are certain flights that you need to have done, such as your long nighttime cross country, and then also some other specific cross countries. He's going to want to see that so he can see the distance that are as the crow flies between your starting point and your distance. Okay. Other documentation required that you're going to need to bring with you is the airplane logbooks and the ADs, or at least proof of AD accomplishment. So there's 3 logbooks. You see at the top left there's the airframe, and then the propeller, and then the engine logbook. He's going to want to see all 3. You need to make sure that all the 100 hours and the annuals are complete. He wants to know that the transponder and the altimeter accuracy, the ELT battery, and then the vacuum and the pitot-static system. The ADs are also important, and then they're required to be done. Like my flight school, they have a nice little sheet in there that shows all the ADs, and they show the expiration dates, whether they've been completed, when they need to be completed as well, tack time, as far as those are the hours when they're due. And then, of course, behind there, they have all the actual ADs that apply for that specific aircraft. Make it really easy, and they put Post-it notes in there, too. If they don't, it'd be a good deal if you did that, too. Prepare for your check ride. Have little Post-it notes in the sections so that you can quickly move through the documentation part of your oral and get that part done. Also, documentation for that aircraft. We all know what AERO means. Airworthiness certificate, registration, operator's manual, and a weight and a balance. He's going to want to see those. One other thing in there is he's probably going to want to see the VOR, the 30-day check, to make sure that's been complete, especially if you're going to be flying and using your VOR. You want to make sure that that's done. And airworthiness certificate has got to be visible to all of passengers. One thing that a lot of people don't really know or think about is your check ride, your oral exam, is an open book test. These are some of the books and some of the documentation that I bring in addition to what's required. The Pilot's Handbook Aeronautical Knowledge, the Flying Handbook, and the FAR AIM. The designee likes to know that you're prepared, and knowing where to find things if you get stuck is a good sign that you're prepared. So bring the documentation, bring your notes, bring what you can. And if you get stuck somewhere, there are certain things that you really need to know and some things that you should know where to look up. If you can't think of it at the top of your head, know where to find it and show that you can find it. And then you can be there with all the answers. It's good to have extra documentation. More the merrier is what I say. Prior to your exam, sometimes he's given you a flight plan or a weight and balance calculation to do, some sort of scenario that you need to come prepared with. That also fits in with required documentation. You want to bring your weight and balance and your flight plan, your nav log, and whatever else is he's given you. Try to have all that done and prepared the night before, and just bring a big load of paperwork like I do and be there 30 minutes, hour early, have it all ready to go.